It is much too early in the season for a must-win. Game 8 of a 162-game schedule would be premature to say you need to begin to panic. On the other hand, it isn't too early to hope for a repeat performance from one of your starting pitchers. The rotation has struggled early on, but the only struggle the last time Cliff Lee was on the mound was in the mind of the hitters. While temperatures rise, the Phillies need Cliff to rise to the occasion once again. You want to talk about baseball weather, this is the best day, including spring training, that the Phillies and their fans will have at the ballpark as they get set for Game 2 against the New York Mets. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Chris Wheeler. Tonight, it's Lee against G. Say that 10 times fast. What's more important than anything else from the Phillies' standpoint is that Lee has as good an outing as he had his last time out, because the Phils really need a jump start from their starting pitcher.
Yeah, he was so good that night, Tom, and they do need a jump start. It'll be about 35 degrees warmer here tonight than it was in Atlanta last week when Cliff Lee pitched a masterpiece against a really good Atlanta Braves offense. And the way he did it, the way he always does it. Watch the way he uses his pitches. In, out, up, down. Used a lot of fastballs in the game. Came up with a good changeup late in the ball game. Didn't even use his curveball that much. Fastballs and cutters in great spots. Just stays out of the middle of the plate, and he had these guys chasing all night. There was a real good changeup that he threw to Dan Uggla, and the Braves were just absolutely baffled. In fact, at the point of the game where we were wondering if he would pitch the 8th inning, he went out there and pitched the 8th inning and got him out really, really fast. So Cliff Lee just did a great job. Now look at his pitch usage right now. Why change a good thing? Even though his numbers were not so great in 2012, he still used the same kind of pitches he used the year before when he had a great year. And if you go back and see what he's doing this year, it's basically the same. The guy's going to throw a lot of fastballs. He's going to challenge hitters, and he's going to try and put it in good spots.
Yeah, one of the big differences already for Lee is that he didn't pick up his first victory till July last year, and he already has victory number 1. All right, one of the big bats that he's got to deal with in the Mets lineup. Yeah, David Wright. I mean, he's a big bat, but really John Buck, of all people, in the middle of this lineup.
Guy that struggled as mightily as any player in the major leagues last year. We saw the Marlins so much, and every time you'd be around them, they'd say, oh, John Buck, what a good guy, but what a terrible season. There he goes, 2-0 in the last night, early in the ball game. In the 2nd inning, got a cutter out over the plate, hit it way out to right center field. The air came out of the balloon. The crowd was out of the game, and the Phillies were in a lot of trouble against that young pitcher they brought out against them last night. The last 2 seasons, look where his average was. He struggled to get to 192. Now, granted, it's early at 375, but he's thrown up a lot of home runs and RBIs already. And the start right there, the bets by a Mets player in the team's first 7 games as far as RBIs go. Great start, and John Buck's one of those guys that's always been a good catcher, Tom, and handles the game well.
Well, you talk about the best starts. Last year, it wasn't until the 2nd week of May that he hit his 3rd home run. It wasn't until the end of May that he picked up his 12th RBI. So it is Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Phils and the New York Mets. It's Cliff Lee on the mound for the Phils, Dylan G on the hill for the New York Mets. When we return, the lineups at first pitch for tonight's game. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. By Xfinity, the official HD triple play provider of your Phillies. By Citizens Bank, where good banking is good citizenship. Isn't it time you experience good banking? And by Independence Blue Cross. We're creating a more coordinated healthcare system that is built around you. Independence Blue Cross, changing the game. beautiful day in the Delaware Valley. The Phillies and the New York Mets getting set for Game 2 of this 3-game series. Cliff Lee warming up on the mound, getting himself ready. Let's take a look at the New York Mets starting lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Leading it off in center field, Colin Cowgill. Daniel Murphy, the second baseman, hits second. David Wright third, followed by John Buck and Marlon Byrd. Lucas Dudas in left field, he'll hit 6th. Justin Turner 7th. Ruben Tejada, the shortstop, hits 8th. And batting 9th and pitching is right-hander Dylan G. And they'll face Phillies left-hander Cliff Lee. Lee in his first outing, 8 innings, 8 strikeouts, no walks, and he allowed only 2 hits.
Unbelievable the difference in that game that night, how cold it was in Atlanta, and he was so good with his control. Tonight it's just a perfect night here to pitch. Hopefully he'll be able to move the ball in and out the way that he did. Our scouting report on Cliff Lee: moves his fastball around a lot. That's a velocity. He will control the tempo of the game when he's on, and it's pitched very well against the New York Mets.
Colin Cowgill will lead it off. He was 0 for 2 in last night's ball game, and the first pitch of the night is over for a strike. It's 0-1. Cowgill hitting 158 with 2 home runs and 5 runs batted in. This guy's first hit in a Mets uniform was a grand slam. On the outside corner, 0-2.
Now if he can do that, that's Cliff Lee. Comes out, zip, 2 fastballs, and the home plate umpire is James Hoy, and he called those pitches strikes too, and they were.
Breaking ball, and it's 1-2. Umpires for tonight's ball game: James Hoy is behind the plate, John Hirschback at first, Bob Davidson at second, and Jim Reynolds, who had the plate last night, is around at third. Of course, John Hirschback, the veteran, is the crew chief. Back behind home plate, out of play into the suite level. Cowgill is playing center field tonight. Kirk Neuenhuis started last night for the Mets. And Terry Collins put Cowgill in for a couple of at-bats as the Mets were pulling away and the Phillies were making pitching changes. Inside corner, caught, strike 3.
And Cliff Lee worked the ball in and out the way we talked about in the scouting report on him. Now, I don't know whether that one was a strike, but if that's the way he's going to call the game tonight behind home plate, this is perfect for Cliff Lee, the way he works the corners.
1 out. Daniel Murphy's the hitter. Murphy had a good night last night. He had a couple doubles for the Mets. Overall hitting .308 with 2 home runs and 6 runs batted in. He also scored 7 runs, and it's 0-1. Another strike at the knees. Well, he's pumping fastballs right now.
Yeah, and they're in good spots because, you know, a lot of times he'll do this and he gets hurt on first pitches because he's in the middle of the plate.
Check swing, 0-2.
Going right out, going 0-2 on 2 guys, and now he can do all kinds of things with them.
Yeah, Roy Halladay talked last night. He said, listen, my biggest problem, well, I mean, one of the problems is that I was behind 2-0. It seemed every single batter.
Yeah, then you totally lose the ability to do things with hitters to make them chase.
A little inside. It's 1-2.
So close again.
Cliff with 126 wins, 78 losses during his career. Ground ball left side toward the hole. Rollins off balance throw, won't have enough on it. And Murphy will get it infield center.
Yeah, they're playing him up the middle, and that ball is a base hit off the bat.
Oh, we mentioned it's been a beautiful day in the Delaware Valley. In fact, compared to last week, Murph, the weathermen have had a renaissance in the Delaware Valley.
Well, they certainly got it right tonight, Tom. That is for sure. If you remember, as you guys alluded to, just 5 days ago when Cliff Lee made his start, it was 41 degrees at game time in Atlanta. It is a beautiful 82 as we get this game started here tonight. But check it out. Cliff Lee has pitched one other time when it was 41 degrees or lower. Back on April 13th in 2008, when he was pitching for Cleveland, he went 8 innings, allowed 2 hits, 1 run, and struck out 8. His first start of the year when it was 41 in Atlanta, 8 innings, 2 hits, 8 Ks, and got the win in that one too. So 41 degrees and lower seems to work just fine for Cliff Lee, but I think the rest of us would prefer tonight.
Yeah, it works fine for Cliff Lee. It didn't work well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a long time.
Utley true.
Knocks that one down. He has a play at second. So 4-6 on the put-out. And there are 2 outs.
Yeah, and in that game we were talking about Atlanta the other night, it was 41 degrees for about 5 pitches. As it kept tumbling all night. It was into the 30s real quick in that game. which is even more remarkable that he pitched as well as he did.
Well, now 2 outs, and John Buck is the hitter.
Nice to get an out on a bullet like that.
Number 44, catcher John Buck.
Well, it's been a heck of a start for John Buck. 12 RBIs, the most for a New York Met at this juncture of the season, this many games in, ever. That ball's pulled toward third, a base hit.
I mean about Cliff Lee. He throws so many first pitch strikes that hitters are up there hacking early at him, and sometimes it's better for him to throw a pitch out of the zone on the first pitch. But he can even get outs that way because they're going to roll stuff over because they're so aggressive on it.
Number 6, right fielder Marlon Byrd.
And that was in the middle of the plate. And Buck hit it hard. Michael Young couldn't get to it.
Marlon Byrd is now the hitter. Byrd had a double in his first at bat last night. Overall hitting .273. No home runs, 4 runs batted in. A little low, and it's 1-0.
Like that. That's a great idea. You don't have to, you want to throw first pitch strike, and he will do it a lot. But after a while, sometimes it's a good idea not to just throw one right there when they're this aggressive.
Byrd fouls it away. It's 1-1. Play by Kratz to keep that in front of the plate, and the runners don't advance. 2-1 the count. Wright's at second. Buck's at first. Eric Kratz back behind the plate tonight after Humberto Quintero made the start last night with Doc on the mound. A lot was made about that. Charlie Manuel wasn't all that happy that a lot was made about that. 2-1 the count to Byrd. Out toward right center field. Ben Revere on the run. He's going to call off John Mayberry, and he'll track it down. So the Mets get a couple of base runners. They lead 2. We go to the bottom of the first. It's the Mets nothing, and the Phillies coming up. For the first time. Let's take a look at Charlie Manuel's lineup for tonight's ball game. Leading it off in center field is Ben Revere. Batting second is the shortstop Jimmy Rollins. Hitting third is the second baseman Chase Utley. Then Ryan Howard and Michael Young. Dominic Brown's in right field. He'll bat 6. John Mayberry hits 7th. And Eric Kratz does the catching, batting 8th. Of course, Cliff Lee bats 9th. And they'll face right-hander Dylan G. G so far in one game, 6 1/3, 4 strikeouts and 3 hits, but he suffered the loss.
Philly's seen a lot of Dylan G in his young major league career. He's a 6'1", 204-pounder out of Cleburne, Texas, 26 years of age. Off-speed pitcher for the most part. Doesn't throw real hard. There you see his numbers in his last outing. He had some problems with his shoulder last year. He had to have surgery because of an artery problem. His fingers were going numb and missed the second part of the season. Our scouting report on him, his fastball top out around 90. Slider, real good changeup. He'll also throw curveball. And he is a guy that will pitch backwards. He does not like to throw his fastball necessarily when he's behind in the count.
Well, he'll face Ben Revere to start things off, and the first pitch to Revere is in there for a strike. Revere off to a so-so start average-wise. He has scored 4 runs, and he has stolen 4 bases, but he's hitting only .233. David Wright was in on the grass. Now we'll go back a little bit. He leaves the line wide open for Revere, who's out on 3 pitches. Looked like G threw just about everything he had in those 3 pitches.
With curveball changeup the last 2 pitches. Time now for our Nissan keys to tonight's ball game. One of them went right out the window quickly, and that's the second one. You got to be patient with this guy because he will try to get you to chase. And Cliff Lee, if he pitches his game, it'll be fun, fast, and efficient, and hopefully a W.
Saw Jimmy Rollins' numbers against Dylan G when we ran down the starting lineups. Obviously, a lot of success against him with 6 hits and 9 at bats. And he hits the first pitch right at the first baseman.
He will throw a lot of pitches that look really nice, and guys will be walking around with comfortable loafers.
Well, he's thrown only 4 pitches and he has 2 outs.
What was that key to the game?
Wheels, tonight's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television and change the language through the menu on your cable box. And you can listen to Bill Kulick, who's on your left, and Ricky Ricardo on your right. You might even see Sarge in that booth from time to time.
Depends what they're serving.
That is true. He brought the food today, so maybe he won't be in the booth. Utley takes. It's 0-1.
He posts a menu, and then he'll decide how much time he's going to spend in there, which is not a bad idea when you get right down to it.
He may even add his 2 cents about the menu.
Sarge can cook.
Inside, it's 1 ball and 1 strike to Utley. Utley so far .370 with a home run and 7 runs batted in. Utley and Rollins have both reached base safely in all 7 games so far for the Phillies. Inside and low, 2-1. There's your patience, Wheels.
Yeah, well, you figured Chase Utley was going to come up and do that after the first 2 guys saw 4 strikes and were retired quickly.
Toward first, a big hop for Justin Turner. So 8 pitches, and Dylan G is through the first inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Phils. Nothing across. On to the second here in Philadelphia. ball game with a record of 2-5. The Mets, meanwhile, 5-2. The Atlanta Braves are atop the division at 6-1. A game ahead of New York and a game and a half ahead of the Washington Nationals, who are 4-2. Nationals are hosting their longtime rival, the Chicago White Sox, tonight, Wheels.
Interleague play.
Lucas Duda leads it off, and he hits the first pitch through the hole on the right side of base hit.
We go again with the first pitch. It probably got a little bit too much of the plate, and teams will swing a Cliff Lee early. And I think as the game goes along, you see him start to throw more change-ups, all-speed stuff early, or out of the zone early.
Here's Justin Turner playing first base tonight. He's played in 3 games so far and has made 1 start. He's 3 for 6 in those games. Outside corner, 0-1. To a foul ball into the Hall of Fame club. Those 2 young ladies behind the gentleman who got the ball, the 2 ladies with the Phillies t-shirt jerseys. Look at her. The one lady on the inside of the row. The ball basically split the 2 of them.
They got out of the way.
They did. Out toward the middle on one hop. Rollins has it. There's 1. There's 2.
Boy, that was a tougher play than it looked, because Cliff really jammed Turner. That ball was spinning like a top going out there to Jimmy Rollins when it hit. And he did a great job with tremendous hands to glove that thing and then get the flip to us. Watch it. You can see the way this ball hits. When it hits, it's spinning like crazy. He's kind of almost surrounded because he really can't reach out to catch it because it's spinning so much. Good double play. Those are the kind of, you ever play a little bit of baseball, have a heck of a chance of running right up your arm. Unless you're really good, like he is.
Pretty soft hands. Tejada takes low. 1 ball and no strikes. Tejada is 6 for 13 against Cliff Lee. Out toward right center field. Ben Revere and John Mayberry meet, and it's Mayberry who puts it away. It turns out to be a fairly easy inning for Cliff Lee, only 7 pitches, and he's through an inning and a half. We go to the bottom of the second here in Philadelphia. Ryan Howard will lead it off. Out for the Mets, Kyle Kendrick will make his second start for the Phillies. Game time is 7:05. Still good seats available for that ball game. It is supposed to be an even better day tomorrow. than today, which is going to be hard to top, to be quite honest with you. It was as good a day as we've seen all year long here in Philadelphia. Bright sunshine all day long.
Nice shots. Like the summertime today. Beautiful night here.
Ryan Howard takes low. It's 1-0. Of course, Charlie Emanuel was asked today, Wheels, about what? Whether it was
hitting weather.
There was hitting season. He's always asked that when it gets a little warmer.
Yeah, he hopes so.
That's exactly what he said. Inside and low, it's 2-0
for his team.
Good luck at McDonald's. Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Scott McShane of Percy. Phillies hit a home run in tonight's ballgame. Scott's going to win $200. Foul ball. It's 2-1. Nice play by Juan Samuel. Once a player, always a player.
Yep. This is for you, not for you.
Right. He knew exactly who the person was that was going to get it.
He can give you that stern look, and then that big smile will pop out.
Ryan Howard has matched the longest number of at-bats to start a season without a home run. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, he's come close to one. The one in Atlanta would have been a homer.
Ground ball into the shift on the right side.
Just keep rolling balls over right now in Dylan G.
On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, we head down to Miami, where the Atlanta Braves have taken a 2-0 lead over the Marlins. Evan Gattis, who's the cleanup hitter now, Wheels, because Freddie Freeman is on the disabled list. He has belted his second home run.
About that.
It was a 2-run shot.
Guy comes out of nowhere, and he's batting cleanup in that lineup.
Well, the way that lineup is gone, it seems like anybody can hit cleanup, although Jason Hayward has not hit since we left Atlanta. He is having a terrible run.
Well, so was Justin Upton. He got it going a little bit. Or, I mean, B.J. Upton, not Justin.
Michael Young lines it to center. That's a base hit. It nearly ate up Colin Cowgill. A one-out single, first hit for the Phillies.
Yeah, but he played it the right way. He couldn't catch it, so he makes sure if he doesn't glove it, it hits his body and stays in front of him.
Here's Dominic Brown with one away. Dominic has 10 home runs here at Citizens Bank Park. One this year. 2 for 15 on the homestand. Off the end of the bat, a foul ball. Over to first. Young is back. Not likely to steal a base. Would you agree with that, Wheels?
Correct. Especially with one out and a left-handed hitter up and the hole open on the right side. We're going to look in there anyway for step off, pitch out possibilities, throw overs.
One and two the count. A 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
That's about what he will top off at. He will try to keep you off speed with, keep you off balance with off speed stuff in good spots.
Dylan G hails from the same college that produced none other than Hunter Pence. Another foul ball by Dominic Brown, and it remains 1-2. Boy, Cowgill is playing Dominic Brown really deep in center.
Oh, they're really deep.
Dude is really deep.
All three of those outfielders are deep.
He just got a piece of that changeup, and it remains 1-2.
There you go. You get a look at how deep they are. Duda's deep in left field. They've got him playing left instead of right. He does what he can out there. He's not a real good outfielder. He doesn't run very well. Marlon Byrd used to really run well. He's still, Marlon's still a good athlete.
Way upstairs, 2-2 with that fastball. Phillies are dealing with a Mets staff that, like last year, is out of the chute with some pretty good numbers. Their starters, and it's mostly because of Harvey and even Jonathan Neese. Starters have an earned run average of 1.87.
Yeah, just the opposite of what's going on with the Phillies rotation.
Out toward left center field. That's going to drop for a base hit. Young thinking about third. Here he goes. Duda's throw is not in time. It hits Michael Young, and it squirts into foul territory. Dominic Brown's going to second, and the Phillies capitalize on the throwing error. It's second and third with one out.
That's great base running by Michael Young. We noticed, without all the cameras and stuff that we're talking about, how deep Duda was in left field. So when that ball was blooped out there, it was a broken bat. He knew he had a shot. He was going to challenge him. He does. And it turns into a second and third with good base running by Dominic Brown. Duda was thinking he was going to throw to second right away, so he got turned a little bit. There he goes. That's on his own. He kept looking. And now when it bounces away, Dominic Brown sees that as he was going back to first. Possibly Juan Samuel helped him a little bit.
Second and third down with one man down. John Mayberry's coming up.
And they'll have to give an error, of course, on that to Duda because the throw hit Michael Young.
And that allowed Brown to go to second. With the infield back, Mayberry stands in. And he hits the first pitch foul toward the Mets dugout.
The Phillies missed a chance last night with a runner at third and less than 2 outs to take a lead. They have a chance now for a gimme run again on a ground ball.
Fair ball inside the third base bag down the left field line. Young will score. Here comes Brown. It's a 2-run double for Mayberry. 2-0 Phillies.
Good job by John. They got a hanger or some kind of off-speed pitch and waited back pretty well on it. Kept it fair. It's hard to keep a pitch like that fair because it was slow. And he hooks it, and it's just inside the bag. Good call down there by the third base umpire Reynolds. And that aggressive base running by Michael Young
forces
the issue, and you have 2 runs on the board. That's real good baseball right there by that guy.
So the Phillies take the early lead, which they've done a couple other times on this homestand.
That's knowing where the outfielder was and that he's not a real good thrower.
Here's Eric Kratz, and Kratz takes a strike. Again, the outfielders are deep. In fact, Bird on the offside is the shallowest of the 3.
Which he should be, and he's still too deep. You have a heck of a chance for another run now if you can get a base hit, unless it's just lined at somebody and you have to hold up.
Ground ball toward third. Kratz is retired, 2 outs. It'll bring Cliff Lee to the plate. During the 2013 season, Turkey Hill will contribute $100 for each Phillies victory and 5 cents for each carton of Phillies Grand Slam ice cream, sold to support the Phillies youth baseball and softball programs. Cliff Lee was hitless in the first game of the season for the Phillies. He was 0 for 2. Up with 2 outs and Mayberry at second. Side 1-0.
This guy doesn't throw that hard, and boy, does he have a lot of room in right center field and down the line in right.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're playing him off.
Well, they're playing him like a pitcher hitting left-handed, but this isn't your normal left-handed hitting pitcher.
No.
By that I mean they figured, well, pitchers, you're going to swing late. He doesn't swing late all the time.
Back toward the middle. That will sneak into center field. A base hit. Here comes Mayberry. RBI single for Lee. 3-0 Phillies. Well, nice job. This has been a good inning for the Phils offense. And it began with the leadoff single by Michael Young and the blue base hit by Dominic Brown and the base running by Michael Young to get over to third.
Yeah, good base running in this inning, and then a 2-out hit by your pitcher. Hit it right off the end of the bat, but got it past G, got it past second base and into center field. Murphy just couldn't quite get to it.
Well, now Ben Revere. Revere takes inside. That's the 20th pitch of the inning for Dylan G.
Yeah, he had a really easy first inning.
So there was a note that Ben Revere, Juan Pierre, and Ryan Howard have the most at-bats in the National League without an extra base hit this year.
Well, they compare.
Revere just dumps it down the left field line.
I like to compare Revere to Pierre.
Very much so. It's just the big guy that you don't compare to those two guys.
Well, yeah, you would expect him to have an extra base hit by now.
Well, he will. He'll have enough of them.
He sure will.
2 outs. Jimmy Rollins, the hitter. Rollins grounded out his first time up, meeting on the mound. Wheels, this will give us a chance to. We want to send get well wishes out to Ed Clifford, who is a good friend of Scott Rowland. In fact, Scott Rowland's one of his closest friends. Ed is his uncle, and we want to send best wishes. We hope he gets back on his feet. We know he's enjoying the Phils game right now, and we just hope he's feeling good and getting a chance to enjoy life at this point.
Never misses a game, according to Scott Rowland. That family is very close to Rowland because he spent a lot of time staying with them over the years when he'd come back here as a visiting player, and he has a lot of feelings for them. Would like to, we'd say so. Had a nice talk with Scott today. He's not retired. But
it's
he's
like Jamie Moyer. He's
right.
Not retired.
He's enjoying his kids in Indiana and coaching his son's baseball team, and with his daughter, who's also an athlete, and just having fun.
Rollins hits the 1-0 pitch foul.
Says he's staying in shape.
Has a shoulder.
It hurts. A lot.
Wheels, you're not supposed to disclose that.
Well, no, actually, he said it's feeling a little bit better right now, but he knows it's not real good.
Yeah,
it's not going to be any good.
Well, Ed, we hope you're doing okay.
Yeah. Scott thinks a lot of you.
Rollins is the 8th man to come to the plate in this inning. Runners on first and second. Outside corner, and it's 1-2.
He is not a guy who's going to get a lot of strikeouts. He's a contact type pitcher, and he relies on the hitters getting themselves out. That's why we put that in the scouting report, that patience is the way you beat him.
Line drive, base hit down the right field line. This might score 2. 1 run definitely. Let's see what happens. They're going to hold Revere at third. It's a 4-0 ball game. An RBI double by Rollins. Boy, Revere was putting himself in position. If there was even a bobble by Marlon Byrd, he was going to score.
Yeah, Jimmy hit that a breaking ball or a changeup off the end of the bat a little bit. And as Tom said, it looked like there's a chance to get 2 out of that one, but it wasn't hit hard enough, so Marlon was able to go over and cut it off. Here it is right there. See, it's right off the end of that. Great replay there as you see where Jimmy hit it on the bat as he got out front a little bit. And here comes Marlon Byrd to cut it off. And as fast as Revere is, Brian Sandberg was not going to run him into a 2-out out at the plate with Chase Utley coming up. You got to get more than 4 because that's not a real good number for the Phillies in this host. That 4-0 is not good.
Well, unless you get 4 now and they get, let's say, 4 next
You
time.
need to add on. But that 4 is
Oddly, and I think we all feel that way. Oddly, the Phillies have had 2 4-0 leads in 2 of their losses on this homestand.
They jump right out at you. Let's just move along.
Chase Utley, 9th man in the bat in this inning, 0 for 1. He grounded out his first time up. He's got some speed on the base path, so a hit should get 2 more. Up high, 1-0.
Oh yeah, 1 more here would really be sweet. You give Cliff Lee a 6-0 lead in the 2nd inning. Doesn't mean it's over.
1 more hit, you mean?
1 more hit, yeah, to drive in 2 more runs. That would be sweet.
Outside, 2-1.
Boy, easy first inning, and they're really making him work in this inning.
30 pitches in this inning for Dylan G. 12 balls, 18 strikes.
Well, this is one of those spots where we talked about earlier when you use the term pitch backwards. And will not be surprised if he does not challenge Chase Utley with a base open. Utley's been hotter than Ryan Howard, and they would rather face him here. So you may see changeup, breaking ball, something off speed.
Into left field. Duda going back toward the track, has room, makes the catch. He did get the fastball, was out a little bit, and the side is retired. However, the Phillies have scored 4 runs in the inning. John Mayberry's double, that brought home 2 just over the bag. How about a little Cliff Lee? And then the scoring was finished off by Jimmy Rollins with a double to right. That brought home Cliff. For all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. Wheels, here's the question. Name the Mets pitcher who won 20 games in '76 and lost 20 games in '77. Huh. The answer will be revealed in the 7th inning. Do you have an idea?
Yeah.
You do?
Mm-hmm. May not be right.
Dylan G leads it off, takes a strike. It's 0-1.
You know you're a pretty good pitcher if you can do that.
And maybe an unlucky pitcher too.
Yeah, we get a lot of starts. They're going to be running them out there.
One away on the put out with the assist by Jimmy Rollins, the put out by Howard. And that'll be the top of the order. Colin Cowgill coming up. We got Cowgill looking on strikes his first time up. Only strikeout so far for Lee, but that's okay. He's at 24 pitches with 1 out in the 3rd.
Yeah, strikeouts are great, but sometimes they can be overrated in a game until you get late. Bring those bullpen guys in, strike them out, put them in play early, and that way you're starting to get through a lot more innings.
Well, he won the count.
He's just painting with this guy. That's the problem Roy Halladay's having right now. It's just all over the place, and his pitch count's so high.
Doc, and I know everybody's read the comments and probably watched the video of his post-game interview last night. There were a lot of deep comments that he had about his game right now.
Well, when a baseball player starts talking about it between the ears and they know it, that's a problem, because this game will wear you down if you're not confident and you're thinking negative, and he's not a guy that thinks negative.
Fly ball, shallow right field. Utley backpedals, still backpedaling, and he makes the catch. He ventured a little farther.
Well, that's a play you really like to see your right fielder run him off there. It's a lot easier play.
Well, 2 outs, and it brings Daniel Murphy to the plate. You know, getting back to Roy Halladay, I spoke to a scout today who was watching the game last night. I know there's been a lot of comments from scouts. This is a gentleman I respect wholeheartedly. He said that velocity-wise, he said he's fine.
Yeah.
He said it's a command issue. He said, and you know what? From my standpoint, as a baseball guy who's watched him over the years, if he figures it out, he's going to be fine.
Right. Exactly, and that's a big if, and that's what we're all hoping happens.
6-3 on the putout. Pretty easy inning for Cliff Lee. He had a 7-pitch inning in the 2nd inning, and now here in the 3rd, he's able to cruise with a 1-2-3 frame. We go to the bottom of the 3rd. Today for great deals. Only a Honda is a Honda. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. And by Dodge. Visit Dodge.com or your local dealer today. Oh, a gorgeous night for baseball. The Phillies off to a 4-0 lead as we go to the bottom of the 3rd. Ryan Howard to lead it off for the Phillies. He grounded out his first time up. Howard takes a strike. It's 0-1. Ryan is 3 for 16 on the homestand. And it's now 28 at-bats without a home run for Howard. Lays off.
He just figures sooner or later he's going to hit one by accident. He sees a lot of that.
In the air to left center field. Going back on it is Cowgill. Out to the warning track. It is gone! A home run by Ryan Howard. The opposite way. 29 at-bats into the season, and the Phillies take a 5-0 lead.
A couple things there. Get off that 4-0. That's sweet. And you just figure sooner or later he's going to run into one. And that's a zone where he's hit a lot of home runs over the years. Shoots it out into the left center field area. Actually pulled his hands in a little bit. Just shows you how strong he is. Ball really carrying well on a warm night, too.
And congratulations to Scott McShane of Percy. He's won $200. Compliments of Howard in the McDonald's home run jackpot. Michael Young shoots one to right. That one's gone. An opposite field home run for Young, his first in a Phillies uniform. It's now 6-0 Phils.
He has tremendous power in right center as Michael Young. He always has. And we figured when the Phillies got him come over here and play, he's going to hit home runs in this ballpark that way. And there's the first one.
Back-to-back home runs for Howard and Michael Young. The first time this year the Phillies have gone back-to-back.
Pitches away from him, was a fastball, ran right back over the plate. He tried to throw him a sinker, maybe get a ground ball out on a sinking fastball. And Ryan Howard's watching. Okay, we just went back-to-back.
Dominic Brown out to left field. And Duda settles under it. And there's one away. Well, this has happened very quickly. The 2 home runs, the first out. And speaking of happening, what is happening, Fanatic? Nice to see you, Fanatic, in the booth. It's Wheels' birthday today, Fanatic. It's not really his birthday.
It's Frank Kopenbarger's. We want him to get down and throw the confetti all over his office later.
Fanatic, now here's the thing. Tonight is a Hatfield Dollar Dog Night. Usually you come to the booth and bring us hot dogs.
Right.
Where are the hot dogs?
Smells like here they are.
Smiley, ladies and gentlemen, Smiley is here with the Dollar Dogs. Hot off the grill. Smiley, thank you very much. Thanks for picking up the slack for the Fanatic.
Thank you, Smiley.
Here, Fanatic, stuff some in your pocket. Bring some with you. Ready? Ready? Uh-oh, watch out, everybody. Ooh, you hit that person right in the back of the head, Fanatic. John Mayberry rips one toward left field. Is it high enough? It is gone! Just inside the pole. 3 home runs in the inning for the Phillies. They take a 7-0 lead. What a celebration. We said all this has happened in a very fast way. Hot dogs for everyone.
Taking a beating. Here's the get out of the way. Here's the replay. Well, anyway, it's a home run down the line. It was the first time. I guess it is that time.
Yes,
too.
it is.
Gee.
Oh boy.
See you, Smiley. Take him with you.
Look at those folks right there. Elation by that lady who got the home run by John Mayberry. Wow. 3 home runs on 7 pitches. It's 7-0 Phillies.
You ever see about 20 hot dogs go that quick? That lady's really happy getting that baseball.
Well, Mayberry now with a double and a home run, and she's bringing that baseball up to guest services where she'll get an autograph by John Mayberry.
Phillies are about due to put a whooping on somebody, and this is far from over the way they've been blowing leads. But this is.
That ball's hit well, right to center field, a base hit for Kratz.
This is getting closer. They're going to have to go get Dylan G.
Dylan G began the game with an ERA of 1.42. And his earned run average is up to 8.31 after this 7 spot.
Right, and their starting pitcher, as Tom mentioned, there's a kid from South Jersey warming up, Burke. As Tom mentioned, their starting pitching has just been unbelievable at the start of the season, and this will throw a little dent in the ERA. Guess they're going to give him Cliff Lee.
And John Buck took the slow walk out to the mound, takes a slow walk back behind the plate.
It's Greg Burke out there who's going to that sidearm, underarm type of delivery and has helped him make this ball club.
Yeah, Rick Peterson is the one who came up with that idea for Burke. First pitch is up high. It's 1-0.
They thought David Wright playing up as if Cliff Lee might bunt with a 7-0 lead.
I think Charlie's going to roll the dice.
Yeah, and he likes this kind of dice to roll. Because this guy can hit. It is hitting weather for the Phillies tonight.
Out front, 1-1.
Cliff Lee wants a fastball, and he got the combio, the changeup. He's laughing about it, too. Think the Fanatic will go down to Frank's office and throw some confetti around?
Don't think so. Well, he might.
I thought it was a heck of an idea.
Just to get the attention off your birthday? Put it on Frank's birthday? Your half birthday?
Happy birthday, Frankie.
One and two the count to Lee.
Half birthday.
Swing and a miss. And there are 2 outs.
There's another guy you wonder why they're throwing fastballs.
Sometimes they probably just forget.
Yeah.
Oh, with 2 outs, Phillies up 7-0, and Ben Revere is coming up to the plate. So a home run tonight by Ryan Howard, one by Michael Young, and another by John Mayberry, all in this inning on 7 pitches. Up high, 1-0. To the right side, and Murphy has it, throws out Revere. The inning is over. 7 men come to the plate in the inning, and this was a great inning for the Phils. Ryan Howard, well, he hit his first home run of the season the opposite way. That had to feel good. The fans knew it over the third base dugout. And there's the reaction. And then Michael Young fouled. Before everybody got back in their seats, they had to get up again. And then John Mayberry, an absolute laser just inside the pole down the left field line. 7-0 Phillies. We go to the top of the 4th here in Philadelphia. K-Cups delivered in all the flavors you love. By who? But W.B. Mason. Well, last week when we were in Atlanta, when Cliff Lee was on the mound, you probably needed a lot of coffee. Ryan Howard, like everybody else, is loving the weather. And he's loving his last at bat because it resulted in a home run. That was followed by one for Michael Young, and a few batters later, another by John Mayberry. Here's David Wright, and he takes outside 1-0. David Wright reached on a On a fielder's choice, his first time up, he hits that one down the right field line, and it slices out of play. 1-1 the count.
You know, Ryan Howard getting a little frustrated with some of the at-bats, decided to take measures in his own hands. So he almost just muscled that ball out. This gives you another indication where if he hits the ball and hits it solid, he can get it out of any part of this ballpark.
I asked Charlie Manuel today if he thought that he was pressing a little bit, just because, you know, he missed the first half of last season. Ryan did, and he certainly wants to make an impact the first half of this season. He said, you know, he probably is. He had such a good spring. They accomplished everything they wanted. As Wright takes inside, it's 3-1. He said, you know, when you don't have results the first few at bats, it sort of spirals.
Well, that particular bat, he had very good balance. He was on his back leg, and all the other times he was all out in front, all off balance.
Well, he took extra batting practice today. He was out there, and so was Jimmy Rollins, and Dominic Brown, guys like that. John Mayberry was out there.
Wow, the whole team.
A lot of guys. Yep. 3-2 pitch coming to right. Ground ball towards shortstop. Big hop for Rollins. And Howard can't dig it out. It'll be an E6. First error of the year for Rollins.
Well, you hate that on a throwing error. Not a very hard play to pick. That is, and you see him shaking his head. That is a throw. However, he should be able to throw it, hit him right in the chest. Take a look at it. He takes his time and has plenty of room. Just threw it in the dirt, but pretty long hop. It's a ball, I think, that Ryan Howard should be able to handle with no problem.
Yeah, one of the strengths of Howard defensively is that ball in the dirt usually. Buck hits one in the air to right field. That one's well hit, and it's not coming back. 2-run home run for John Buck. Second home run of the series. It's now a 7-2 ball game.
Well, you talking about a guy that's kind of turned that offense around. You're looking at him, John Buck. Not a good year last year, but seeming like he's found a home there in New York. That's pretty good hitting. Hitting that ball out towards center field. See where the location is. You see that ball coming right back to him. Might want to, those guys that are hot, breaking that curveball and changeup.
Well, one earned, one unearned for Cliff Lee in this inning. This is the error by J-Roll. Marlon Byrd takes low.
Well, just hate to give a team any kind of momentum the way things have been going. And Meany making an error. Next guy home run. That will give life to the New York Mets. I tell you, you never know. From year to year, you can go through and not see the ball well, not hit a lot of home runs, and now getting out to one of his better starts.
Well, 4 home runs and 14 runs batted in. Speaking of John Buck, let's take a look at our Mazda League leaders. John Buck with his 14 RBIs, tops in the National League ahead of Todd Frazier and Paul Goldschmidt. Justin Upton is tied with Goldschmidt. Chase Utley is right behind that leaderboard with 7. Ooh. I thought she was going to go right onto the field. Nice job.
Well, good balance.
It's all about balance.
Well, anything you do, just about. Didn't want her to tumble on the field.
And a call, strike 3. Strikeout number 2 for Lee.
Good pitch. A lot of times you don't get that call on the inside part of the plate. Check it out. That's why a lot of times hitters don't even offer at the ball inside. It's just not called consistently.
Lucas Duda is the hitter. He singled his last time up. Strike 1. Cutter.
Yeah. Hit a single in the right field his first time up. Looking first pitch fastball. He got right on it.
There's your curveball, Sarge.
I think you should throw more of those to the lefties. That, you know, they have their own game plan as into what they would like to do. I'm out of the zone here with a fastball, maybe up and in.
You okay with that one?
Yeah.
That was a cutter that was up a little bit too far and in a little too far.
You can do one or two things. Come back in there, or you can throw that breaking ball. A lot of times you come in there and
that one's in the kitchen. Rollins out in shallow center, and he puts it away for the second out here in the fourth. Tomorrow, Eye Opener scours the world of fast food and taste tests the latest crazes. Find out if they are worth the trip to the drive-thru. That's tomorrow morning starting at 6 on Eye Opener, a different kind of morning news. Now Justin Turner with 2 outs. Hit into a double play his last time up.
well, he just doesn't mess around. I mean, you can hit him hard, and it doesn't make it where he's not going to come right back at you. He has a lot of pride in his ability, and he feels just like Holiday that if he can make his pitches, that he'll get the hitters out. Period.
Shallow center field. Ben Revere settles under it. And after the 2-run home run, Lee is able to get the next 3 batters. So 2 runs, 1 earned, 1 unearned. Middle of the fourth, 7-2 Phillies. It's not worth driving. It's not worth building. Buy WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. And buy Chevrolet. Visit your local Chevy dealer at ChevyDealer.com. Last of the fourth. Phillies on top 7-2. And the new pitcher for the New York Mets is right-hander Greg Burke. He's pitched in 3 games so far. Burke is over from the Baltimore Orioles organization. Well, we mentioned before, Greg Burke is a South Jersey guy. You know who else is a South Jersey guy, Sarge?
Who's that?
Greg Murphy. Burke,
Greg Murphy.
Take it away, buddy.
That's right. All of us Gregs are down there in South Jersey. Greg Burke's really a great story. You mentioned, he was in the bigs for a couple of years with the San Diego Padres and, kind of lost his way, went back to AAA and got hit around a little bit. But then started working with Rick Peterson, the former Major League pitching coach, and he got to the point where he decided to go sidearm, which is what you're going to see here tonight, kind of a submarine delivery. And he's back. He's back with the New York Mets, and they really think this kid can help them out. The best part about it, he's a graduate of Gloucester Catholic High School in South Jersey. The class of 2000, he played for the legendary coach Dennis Barth down there. In his senior year, guys, his team was 33-1 and ranked #1 in the nation, the Gloucester Catholic Rams. So very impressive high school career, and now back in the bigs with the Mets.
Yeah, the Barths have been a baseball machine, not only with Brooklawn Legion, but also with Gloucester Catholic, among other teams in South Jersey. Jordani Valdespeed is the new left fielder for the Mets as he takes over Jimmy Rollins leads it off here in the bottom of the fourth. It's no balls and 1 strike. Rollins doubled homer run his last time up. It is an odd delivery, to say the least, for Greg Bird. Must be difficult to get used to for a guy that was over the top for most of his career. I mean, he not only drops down, I don't even know if he drops down as much as he just lowers his upper body and then steps toward the first base line.
Yeah, well, he's hoping to get a little bit of movement. He throws a 2-seam fastball, and he'll throw a slider that'll come in. 2-seam will go away.
Foul ball, and it's 2-2.
Well, when they're not throwing as hard, when they're at 86, get a chance to take a good look at it. Take a look at him as he's coming down and then almost up. And you have to locate that arm position. Got to locate exactly where he is throwing. And don't overswing.
Up high, 3-2. Murph, what has he said about this motion that he has here and just how unorthodox it is?
Yeah, well, certainly from the batter's eye, I would imagine it looks very strange. But, you know, it's funny. When I talked to him yesterday about it, he said he really took to it pretty quickly. When he decided to go that way, he and Peterson started working on it, and almost immediately the velocity that he wanted with his fastball was there. He said it took a little while to get the breaking balls working because you're obviously coming from a completely different arm slot. So, you know, to get the different breaking pitches to work for him, he really had to work on that. But he said he felt very comfortable doing it right away, and they thought they had something, and obviously they do.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen Sarge, a guy like this, step toward the first base line as far as he does.
Yeah, and then he kind of almost throws well, from the side or coming from third base. A little more difficult to hit, I would think, if you are a right-hander.
Here's Chase Utley, who's 0 for 2.
Same pitch that he called on J-Row.
Pretty close, yeah, you're right.
2-seamer. We talked about that. It's going to start right inside, right about the hip of a left-handed hitter, and then move away. Well, he seems to be guessing back there now, just going on sound. That's what makes it difficult when an umpire is not consistent with his pitches. I thought the first pitch was a little bit higher and better than the one that he just called. But he's put you on notice. You get 2 strikes, you better be swinging.
Change up, and it's 1-2.
Filthy. Well, these are the type of guys, because of the movement, you want to definitely go up and take that first pitch just to be able to see how the ball is actually moving. If he throws a ball, might want to take another one just to see whether or not you can see another pitch.
Side, it fades. It's 3-2.
I tell you, there's just no way that he could throw like that with men on base, you think. Take a look at it. He drops down. Again, what you're looking at as a hitter, looking at that arm angle and keeping your eye on the ball.
Chopper foul. And it remains 3-2. Well, you've faced a lot of sidewinders, submarine guys. Quisenberry threw that way. I don't think you faced him, did you?
No, to Colby.
Did anybody ever step toward the first base line like this guy?
Not quite like that. Matter of fact.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, Colby was more. I think he would drop down a little bit more and go a little bit more to the third base side.
It's like he's running away from the mound.
Well, it seems like he's throwing the ball, going one way, throwing the ball the other way.
Watch where he steps. Look where the mark is.
See where he goes that way now. He's just almost seems like you could bunt on him if you wanted to, because he's not going to be able to get there, and that's for future. You don't want to do it now.
There's ball 4. Yeah, where he stepped, the normal spot for a right-hander was probably 2.5 feet to the left.
Yeah. And basically, the reason he's throwing that way is to actually create his own angle.
Yes, Sarge, this is where he's basically landing, and this is where a right-hander would normally land. So you're from there. I mean, that's a pretty good distance for a right-hander, isn't it?
Well, he feels good that way. He feels pretty good. I mean, he's actually developed this way to throw. Conventional for him. Wasn't going to allow him probably to pitch in the major leagues. Good pitch.
Oh, and 1 the count to Howard. He went the opposite way with his first home run his last time up.
You think he really got it when he hit it? Just on the sound?
Thought he did. But, you know, that's a tough part of the park to judge as it starts to angle toward 387. So at a Major League scoreboard in Washington, the White Sox are shutting out the Nationals 1-0. Jake Peavy on the mound for the White Sox. Gio Gonzalez on the hill from the Nationals.
See that on his back foot? That's what I was talking about earlier. He sits back on that back foot, and then he starts to make his turn, as opposed to foot coming off the ground, being a little bit more just off balance, I should say.
Line drive caught by Tejada just off the end of the bat. And Utley goes back to first. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 4th. And here comes Michael Young for a 3rd time. He's 2 for 2. MLB.com at bat is the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for your iPhone, your iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At bat delivers Phillies baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text at bat to 31826. We'll check out MLB.com for more details. Now with 2 outs, Michael Young. There goes Utley. Pitch is taken outside, and Buck has no chance. Phillies are perfect swiping bags this season.
Well, Utley, one of the highest percentages in baseball, and still in bases. See, no throw there. It takes a long time to get that ball to the plate with the way that his style of throwing. He's got to give him double looks back there and keep looking.
Outside, 2-0. Michael Young's average with his 2 hits tonight, Sarge, has gone from 280 to 333.
Yeah, it's so early that when you're getting hits or not getting hits, the average is going to fluctuate one way or the other.
On the outside corner, it's 2-1.
Well, how about Michael Young getting into the act? You know, he hits a lot of balls to right field. This one gets out of here. Well, you like to see that. Now he's starting to really square the ball up. It's much easier for the pitchers, much easier if you're making errors at all. But not magnify when you're able to score a lot of runs.
That ball's hit well to center field. Cowgill's not going to get it. Utley will score easily. Young's on his way to second. What's he going to do? Sarge, he's thinking about three. The throw by Murphy is not in time. Michael Young has a single, a home run, and now a triple, and the Phillies are on top 8-2.
Wow.
He had 3 triples last year, his first of the season. He's a double away from the cycle.
Well, right, double away from the cycle as well as that ball there hitting the gap. That's where you want to hit the ball if you're going to get a triple. He actually looked at it, going to do a little pop-up slide right down, made it in good fashion. Way to go.
So he's in scoring position with 2 outs. Dominic Brown is the hitter. 8-2 Phillies on top. They have 11 hits. We've heard so much about Michael Young as far as his intelligence go. I'll tell you one thing that's really stood out is the way he has run the bases.
Oh, no, he's good. He's an all-around a baseball player in terms of that. Knows how to run the bases. I mean, that ball that was smoked right there, even Utley, same kind of player in terms of running the bases. That ball hit, he barely had to even look around. He knew that the fielder wasn't going to catch the ball simply because he looks and knows where they are before it's hit. Then you don't have to look around. But good hitting by Michael Young.
Phillies have capitalized with runners in scoring position tonight. They're 4 for 6 so far.
Yeah.
Well, 3-1 now to Dominic Brown.
Dominic just showed a pretty good eye there at the plate, especially from the right-handers. And this guy is a little bit easier to hit, you would think, from the left side.
Fouled it away. It's 3-2. Charlie said he's happy with a lot of things Dominic Brown has done. He's hit the ball hard. He's 7 for 28 so far. And he would love to see him come through with runners in scoring position and start to do that more consistently. And he thinks that'll happen.
Yeah, that'll happen by just really having a little bit more confidence. Not only that, getting himself a good pitch and not panicking when you get runners in scoring position.
Ground ball back toward the middle. Tejada backs up on it and has to hurry the throw against Brown. Phillies are down here in the 4th, but they do get a run on the triple by Michael Young. On to the 5th we go. It's 8-2. Phillies on top. time the Phillies are home. It wraps up Sunday the 21st with the Citizens Bank Fanatics birthday. That's an 8:05 game against the St. Louis Cardinals. Free time traveling Fanatic DVD to fans 14 and under. Should be a great weekend at the ballpark. It begins with an extra day on Thursday, the 18th of April. That's Expedex 2013 schedule magnet, free to all fans. Get your tickets by going to Phillies.com. Ruben Tejada leads it off here in the top of the 5th for the Mets. Phillies have scored 8 runs on 11 hits, 7 of those runs against Dylan G, who exited this ball game after 3 innings. It was the shortest start of his brief major league career. And now Cliff Lee trying to front run as the pitch is outside, 1-1.
I got to give the hitters a lot of credit. Cliff Lee himself, he ended up getting a hit and a ribby, trying to help his own calls out.
Inside, 2-1. Sarge, how about this stat about Ruben Tejada? You're a former hitter. You like this kind of stuff. Over the last 2 years, he has had 79 at bats with the count 3-2. He lines that 2-1 pitch on one hop to Utley. 1 away. 79 at bats. All right. That's only part of the story.
Well, yeah, and then that's taking it all the way. That's seeing a lot of pitches, obviously.
All right. He's 50 for 79 when the count is 3-2. 50 for 79.
Well, we've talked about that, using that as a hitting count, and certainly he is. I mean, let's face it, that's a lot of hits to have and 79 at bats.
I think it's ridiculous.
You sure that's a right stat?
That's what I was told today.
Wow.
He's retired for the first out. Here's Valdespin hitting in the pitcher's spot. To the count. Valdespin came on as part of a double switch. He's hitting .250 this year. Did he go? No appeal, no swing.
Wow.
And it's 1-2.
Well, that was almost automatic. One of the reasons that breaking ball you throw, you want it to be a hard one so you can get those check swings. If he pumps this fastball into him on the inside or outside corner. He's missed with 2 breaking balls here so far.
Over toward first, a foul ball, and it remains even 2-2. Well, for years we've talked about StubHub being the place to find great Phillies tickets. And this season you can get more with your tickets thanks to StubHub Fan Rewards. So get to StubHub and grab your seats today. 2-2 the count to Valdespin. Off the end of the bat. Carrying over the head of Ben Revere, and he can't make the catch. Off his glove and off the wall. Valdespin on his way to third. They don't get there easily.
Well, that was one heck of a try. Thought he got a pretty good jump on it. Ball still kind of turning just a little bit. See that? Oh, trying to do that over the shoulder catch there. Just a little bit to the left. If he had been over, right off of the tip of the glove, not able to get that. Triple all the way, tried to get it coming back off the wall.
Phillies will play the infield back on top 8-2 with 1 out and a runner at third. Cowgill, the hitter, takes a strike in the knees. It's 0-1.
Comes right back at you. Doesn't waste a lot of time. Usually gets the sign, location, coming inside.
Ball got off the glove of Pratt, so the run's going to score.
What was that?
I think he was crossed up. I mean, there's nobody on second base. No, he didn't talk with him. He just missed it.
I think he just boxed the ball right here. Oh, my.
Hit the umpire's mask.
Usually the umpire will say something about that. Just one of those kind of miscues.
Well, Kratz wanted the ball down, it looked like, and the pitch was up and in. They scored a pass ball. John Hirschbeck says that he went around. It's 1-2.
Fighting fields, just looking for outs. You don't want to walk batters. They can hit to get on. Always when you have the lead that you do by 5 runs.
First 3-ball count of the night for Cliff Lee. It's 3 balls and 2 strikes, 1 out here in the 5th. Swing and a miss. Strikeout number 3. Now, don't forget the Phillies Festival is scheduled at an earlier date this year. It's Thursday, May 16th. It's a great event. It benefits the ALS Association of Philadelphia. It features 2013 players, of course, and the coaching staff. Don't forget Cliff Lee and Ben Revere will have photo booths. There's a silent auction and many grab bags. Call 215-463-1000. Tickets go on sale April 12th. A strike to Daniel Murphy. Murphy's 1 for 2. Inside, 1-1. Down the right field line, that'll be in for extra bases. Mayberry gets to the wall and gets there quickly, but Murphy on his way to second, and he'll be there with his 3rd double of the series. And 2 extra base hits now in this inning for the Mets.
Usually, though, when he's getting hurt, it's not on the off-speed stuff. It's been on the fastball. And then that would be mostly bat location. Make no bones about it, however, he is throwing strikes.
He's got to be careful here with right up. The lead is 5. And a curveball in there for a strike. It's 0-1.
Good pitch. It's one of those guys, I mean, every time you see him, he almost seems to be doing damage. Obviously, the best player on the New York Mets team.
Fouls it away. Now it's 0-2. And Kratz going out to the mound with Murphy on second. We'll make sure they know what pitch they want here.
Yeah, he had a little problem, though, coming back after being hit in the head. It took him a long time to get back in the groove. Every time a ball would come up near his head, he would be where he kind of duck or flinch, I should say, a little bit. But he seems to stay in there pretty good now, and he's obviously an all-star type player.
Ground ball back towards shortstop. To his left a step or 2 is Rollins. Side is retired, so just 1 run in the inning. Now the pass ball after the triple by Valdespin. Bottom of the 5th. Phillies up 8-3. We'll send John Mayberry, Eric Kratz, and then Cliff Lee to the plate. Bottom third of the order. 8 runs on 11 hits, 1 error for the Phillies. 3-6-1 for the Mets. Well, prior to the ball game, the Drexel women's basketball team, the WNIT champions, were honored. The Fanatic took part in this celebration. That is a great honor.
Wow.
And they beat Utah this past weekend. And just to get to a championship game says an awful lot. But to win it, I know the NCAA women's championship's going on right now between Louisville and UConn. But that's a pretty special honor to not only play more games, but also have success in those games. And that's exactly what the women from Drexel were able to do. So congratulations. John Mayberry leads it off here in the 5th. On the inside corner, 0-1.
Well, John's been a lot more aggressive tonight. You know, and he's not going to always have those type of results, but you want him to be aggressive. Capable of hitting the ball out of the ballpark. And that is every direction, center field, right field. It's the kind of power that he has.
Way outside, and it's 2-1. We hope that if he can get some success going, because there was a time a couple of years ago where he had a little success going, that he'll keep buying into that sort of theory.
Well, I think when his back was against the wall, that's when he really came out fighting, and he was a lot more aggressive.
Out towards center field. Now, he hit that ball well. It's caught, but he hit it well.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can build on that. I mean, every ball you hit isn't going to be a hit, but when you're hitting them like that and on the line, that means that you're close.
Oh, what a way. Eric Kratz is coming up, and Murph is somewhere in the ballpark with some very special guests. Murph?
Yeah, special certainly is the right word, Tom. What a night here at Citizens Bank Park. At the end of the 3rd inning, 3 of the Congressional Medal of Honor recipients joined the crowd here in Philadelphia to help change out the bases, and got a rousing standing ovation from this crowd here at Citizens Bank Park. Let me introduce Staff Sergeant Sal Junta over here to my right. This is Lieutenant Tom Norris, and this is First Lieutenant Brian Thacker, all Medal of Honor recipients. And Brian, let me start with you. First of all, the experience out there tonight, being recognized for your heroics from this crowd in Philadelphia.
Well, what I sensed was the spirit of patriotism and recognition. I mean, we wear this thing not for ourselves, but for everybody that was with me. And what I got out of it is the city of Philadelphia recognizes that. And, you know, that's deeply appreciated. It's always there, but it's appreciated to hear it come out.
Receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest award that you can receive for a man in uniform. When you obviously the circumstances in Vietnam that led to you wearing that medal were dire, but just talk about what it means to be able to wear that.
Well, it's come to mean a lot of responsibility. The first thing you realize that it's not a me award, it's an us award. I just get to take the praise and the applause like tonight, but, you know, I was part of a team. We did what we had to do. I survived, many didn't. And then over the years, it's how can you keep that spirit alive? How can you put back? How can you teach? Those are the kinds of things that come up and start to bubble up.
And that's why you're here in Philadelphia. Tell folks, you travel the country to raise awareness and to raise money to help your charity for those folks who weren't lucky enough to come home. Tell us about the event tomorrow night.
Well, the event tomorrow night downtown at the Irish Pub on 20th Street at Walnut is part to support the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation. And that's a not-for-profit that's putting money back into the community by taking care of children of fallen federal law enforcement officials, but and other special opportunities.
And folks can come out and meet these guys, Tom, tomorrow. I believe it's a $20 donation at the door. Come out, get your picture taken with true American heroes. There's no doubt about it. We hope you enjoy your time, guys, in Philadelphia. We thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. And, you know, guys, the event tomorrow night at the Irish Pub is called the Gathering of Heroes. And that's exactly what we have here tonight. Guys, thank you very much. Tom, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Murph, thank you. 3,471 Medal of Honors have been given out since it was first implemented during the Civil War. Tomorrow's event has already, over the years, the event like tomorrow, has already helped raise $47 million over the years since 1995 for the Marine Corps League Law Enforcement Foundation. So a great cause and some great individuals who are getting a chance not only to be honored here tonight, but also to help honor those that have helped the cause tomorrow night here in Philadelphia. 2-2 the count to Cliff Lee. 8-3 Phillies on top here in the bottom of the fifth. And the pitch to Lee. Out toward left field. Valdespin comes running in and has to go running out. And he makes the catch. Sarge, that was a route that you wouldn't want to teach anyone.
Nope.
But it did get the job done for the Mets. 1-2-3 go the Phillies. 5 in the books. Cliff Lee will go back to work to the mound when we return. With the Phillies, Kevin Francis stepped up when Charlie Manuel called upon him last season, and it has continued in 2013. Off the bench and into the spotlight at Citizens Bank Park, Kevin delivered the biggest hit of the early season and the first home win for the Fightin' Phils. Francis provided the frenzy, and it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross, changing the game. Well, the first of $2 dog nights here at Citizens Bank Park here in the month of April. The Fanatic forgot Smiley as he was shooting the hot dogs off, going down the right field line. Cliff Lee, he hasn't forgotten how to find the strike zone tonight. He has been he's been pretty crisp so far through 5. Not as crisp, let's say, as last week against the Braves, but he's done a nice job.
On the same page, they've been able to put down the sign, and he's throwing it. A little easier, however, to go out there and pitch, too, when you do have a lead. If you make a mistake here or there, it doesn't mean the end of the game. And he's had some runs to work with.
John Buck waves at the first pitch. It's 0-1. That was a cutter from Lee. His cutter will go anywhere between 84 and, I guess you could say, 88, 89 miles an hour. It's a pretty broad range. 0-2 the count and the pitch to Buck. Went to the curveball, so he's thrown 3 different pitches in this at bat.
Yeah, don't know quite what to throw him. Maybe a little fastball away.
Popped him up right around the plate. Pratt's off with the mask. One gone.
Tied him up. No cutter inside. See where it does. Just eats him up on the inside part of the plate there.
Look at everybody in the background. Kratz did everything with perfect technique.
Yeah.
Found it, tossed the mask far away so he didn't step on it. Marlon Byrd, the hitter. Little topper toward third. Young charges, flips in time. Now, Michael Young tonight offensively has had himself a heck of a night. He continues to obviously work on his offense on a daily basis, which, you know, that's understandable because he's an offensive guy. But I want to tell everybody, he is out there every day taking ground balls of all different styles to shore up his defense and to continue to get used to playing third base again.
Well, when you haven't been out there, and again, just shows you the dedication that Michael Young has. DHing most of the year last year, not playing in the field a lot, but then to come back to a position, third base, not the easiest position to play because the ball gets on you so quickly.
Well, this is the 361st start for him at third base. Now, that's nowhere near the number of starts he's made at shortstop during his career.
Right.
0-2 pitch. Foul ball by Murphy off the mask of Kratz. Or, I'm sorry, Baxter, who is pinch hitting for the pitcher.
Take a look at that. That's why, for you young guys, never turn your head. The ball hits you. You want it to hit you right in the mask.
Curveball and a call. Strike three. Man, you like that one, huh, Sarge? Strikeout number 4 for Cliff Lee. 1, 2, 3 go. The Mets here in the 6th. Well, he's thrown all his pitches in this inning, and that was one of the best curveballs of the night. Go further. Buy the Pennsylvania Lottery. Ignite your luck with the newest Pennsylvania Lottery instant games. Must be 18 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. And buy Toyota. Let's go places. Bottom of the 6th inning. Phillies lead it 8-3. Now the Mets once again will dip into their bullpen. And they will bring the left-hander into the game. It is Scott Rice. 1-0 with an ERA of 2.70. 3 1/3 so far for Rice. 4 hits and 2 strikeouts. So Burke goes 2 innings in relief of Dylan G. And now Rice. The Mets have really pieced together their bullpen. It's totally different from the bullpen that they had last year. Terry Collins said that there's certain guys that have been used more than others that they have to be careful with as the first month of the season moves on.
You got to have a strong bullpen if you're going to be able to compete. Preferably having really 4 strong guys there in that bullpen. 3 will work, however. They can pitch you 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. That closer, awful important.
Then Revere takes the first pitch low, 1-0. Revere so far 1 for 3, a strikeout, a single, and he's grounded out to second.
He's got a nice game, definitely, for a leadoff hitter. Usually gives you pretty good at bats. Oh, he's not just a wild swinger, and again, his job is to score runs at the end of the year. If he has 100 runs, he's done his job and played defense. Got to play some defense if you're playing every day.
Bunts that one in the air, and it's caught by Rice. That ball came inside, I think, a little bit more than he expected, Sarge. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought he was trying to just bunt that ball, believe it or not, in no man's land there. But he has the speed. He gets it down. Either of the lines is pretty difficult to throw out. Puts a lot of pressure on the opposition. Take a look at it. It does come back in, but again, I thought he was trying to bunt that ball in the middle of maybe right over toward that mound. Sure. And there are guys that can do that. We've seen them. We'll ask him what he was trying to do with that bunt.
Jimmy Rollins is 1 for 3, grounded out to first, doubled and drove in a run, and struck out looking. Outside, and it's 2-0. Sarge, did you wish Wheels a happy half birthday today?
You know what? I was wondering if, and I guess it was, because I looked at the book. I was actually looking at it, and sure enough, it was his birthday today.
Well, you had the first edition, which did say his birthday was April 9th, as Rollins flies out to center. And there are 2 outs. Time to take a look at our Subway in-game box scores. And Sarge, it's nice to look at the Phillies end of the spectrum. They've had themselves a productive night offensively.
Oh boy, they sure have. And when you look at who's leading the way, obviously Michael Young, John Mayberry Jr. having an awful good night. Thing what the guys have to do, though, you remember you want to be consistent. This is a big game here toward winning that series. Haven't won one so far. Need to really get on that road for sure.
Chase Utley 0 for 2. He walked and scored a run. And the pitch is low. 1-0 the count. Utley has scored 6 runs so far in 8 games.
Yeah, he's starting to really look good now that seems to be 100% healthy. Just by all the things that he's doing, from running, sliding. He's another one that usually works the count. It's himself pretty good pitch.
Got birthday music.
Where you going? Where you going?
Can't walk out, Wheels, when you're already in the shot.
Oh gosh, you know better than that. Oh, happy birthday, Will.
Birthday music going right now.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
It's not our stick, it's your stick.
And many more.
Well, there'll be another one in August.
Well, we know we're going to have another one in August. You're right about that.
Also, happy birthday to Frank Kopenbarger
at
Phillies clubhouse. There's ball 4 to Utley. Second walk.
Did you see him try and run?
But where he was going.
Yeah, he was trying to get out of the shot. Like, whoa.
It was like Jerry Seinfeld when Kramer had the Merv Griffin set. He was trying to run away.
Oh, boy.
Ryan Howard with the opposite field home run.
Now I'll take a look at that there. And again, he's strong enough and he can hit him to left field. Just needs to start to make a little better contact. And he can do that by swinging at strikes.
Howard 1 for 3 tonight. Outside, and it's 1 ball and no strikes.
Just can't be fun at the old ballpark here, Tom.
Particularly when the home team is putting up some runs.
Well, it's just a different buzz when they're scoring runs and hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
Utley's going. The throw goes right on past Tejada. That was all Chase Utley. He goes to third easily. It wasn't a great throw, but Utley was winding in the base path as Turner was trying to find a path to throw.
Well, it almost appeared he was going on first movement there, doing another good job of getting himself into scoring position. Take a look at this throw right here. Utley there on that grass, however, and that's just not a good throw. Don't know what Tejada was doing, faking like he had the ball.
So now 1-0 the count to Howard with a runner at third. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike.
What I was talking about on him swinging at good pitches. Well, everybody's going to swing at bad pitches from time to time, but you want to recognize, the breaking pitch a lot slower than that 90 fastball that he swung at the pitch before that one. And most pitchers, when you swing at a pitch like that, what do? Come right back and try and throw another one there in the dirt. Now Buck's going to need a little time out there, Tom.
Yeah, that ball hit him right in the groin, and it's going to take a moment or two.
Always respect. Umpires will do exactly going and sweeping off the plate. Anytime that happens, vice versa too. If the catcher's hurt, usually that umpire will go out toward that pitcher's mound just to give him a little bit of a breather.
It's 2-2 to Howard. Well, he was wandering down the third base line, so Rice stepped off. There's nobody near Chase, so he can go pretty good distance off that line.
I had to tell you, this situation, you almost would hope he throw the ball outside. We can just dribble a little ground ball to the opposite side.
No, instead it's a strikeout. He went on the inner half, so the Phillies leave one over at third. We go to the 7th. Phillies on top, 8-3. Out to the warning track, it is gone! A home run by Ryan Howard. Young shoots one to right. That one's gone. John Mayberry rips one toward left field. Is it high enough? It is gone!
Appropriate music by Pat Benatar once performed a post-game concert at Veterans Stadium back in the 70s. Hit me with your best shot. And that's what the Phillies did there in that third inning with 3 home runs, including back-to-backers by Ryan Howard and Michael Young. Cliff Lee, a solid 6. He's pitching here into the 7th inning. The Phillies have gotten him some runs tonight, and he's trying to finish off the Mets. Still have 9 outs to go.
Yeah, top of the 7th inning. It's 1 ball and no strikes to Justin Turner. Turner will be followed by Tejada. Out toward right field. Mayberry will track it down. He started in and had to float back a little harder than he anticipated. So 1 out here in the 7th. These lucky fans are tonight's Citizens 7. They will receive the prize pack courtesy of Citizens Bank. Citizens Bank with the most 7-day branches in the Philadelphia area. To find a branch near you, visit citizensbank.com. For Troy Hawkins, the veteran. Man he's got to have 1,000 jerseys in his rec room.
A lot of teams.
There's Tejada, who is 0 for 2. Flat out to right, grounded out. Valdespin's on deck. Softly to right field. Kind of an indication on how Lee has kept the Mets off balance tonight. They have 6 hits. There have been some balls squared up. The 5th inning was probably the roughest just because he threw 23 pitches.
Yeah, but as you said, Tom, he's keeping him off balance, and that's what he does. That's what he's so effective. He moves his fastball in and out so well. And then he can use his curveball and his changeup so effectively.
On 1 the count to Valdespin.
He throws his fastball like that. He's on the corners, and he's been there almost all night. Just the way he was in Atlanta the other night.
Broke his bat. That bat was shattered by Valdespin. This was as quick an inning as we saw Lee throw in the 2nd and the 3rd. He retires the Mets in order. He has set down 7 in a row. We go to the bottom of the 7th. Michael Young will lead it off. quiz answer. All right, Wheels, here's the question one more time. Name the Mets pitcher who won 20 games in 76 and lost 20 games in 77.
I'm going to say a guy that I brought up, unfortunately, and last year and said he was no longer with us, and he still is. He's a great pitcher, and I'm going to go with Akuza.
Jerry Koosman is correct, and he's still with us.
Still with us. Sorry about that.
Get the double bell for that one, Wheels.
Well,
Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize packet. Thanks for playing Dodge Stump the Fan.
Phillies are lucky enough to have him here for a while. What a great guy and tremendous pitcher.
LaTroy Hawkins will take to the mound for the Mets here in the bottom of the 7th, and he's going to face Michael Young. Hawkins so far in 3 games, an ERA of 6.75. Young has a single, a home run, and a triple. Trying to become the first Philly. Well, I don't know if he's trying to do it, but he could become the first Philly since 2004 to hit for the cycle.
David Bell?
David Bell.
Been a long time. Greg Jeffries did it, and there was something like 30 years in between when Johnny Callison did it and then Greg Jeffries. From the 60s to the, I guess it was the 90s. Yeah, that's when Jeffries would have been here.
I always assume, as you can see how they're defending him, I always assume that the hardest thing to get is the triple, and he got that.
Right. It was for
the count.
It was for David Bell.
That's true.
I think where he hit his out there.
Carlos Beltran was leaping in the air.
Yeah, he hit his out there in that well area out there where the field goes off on that angle, and it right in there. Oh, wait a minute, let's try this. Weird looking.
What was that?
What that was.
1-1 the count.
But anyway, that's where it was. And it took a crazy carom off there, as Tom said, with Beltran out there, and he got a triple out of it.
Ground ball back toward the middle, and Tejada gobbles it up. And there's one away here in the 7th. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, an update from Washington, where the Nationals have taken a 4-2 lead over the White Sox. Denard Span, a double and 2 runs scored. Both, I don't know, Peavy's still in. Gio Gonzalez is out. Here's Dominic Brown, who's 1 for 3. 1 ball and no strikes to Dominic. This series winds up tomorrow at 7:05. Kyle Kendrick will make his 2nd start of the year. He opened Citizens Bank Park on Friday. The Phillies have an off day on Thursday. They'll fly to Miami on Thursday night. Marlins had a decent crowd last night for their opener. It wasn't sold out, but it was a decent crowd. And out of play, it's 1-2. Dominic was indecisive on that swing, so there's 2 outs, and it's time for the Major League Notebook. Murph.
All right, thanks to Matt. Brought to you by Gwinnett Mercy College. The Angels' Jared Weaver has a fractured left elbow. The injury occurred on Sunday when he was trying to avoid a comebacker to the mound. Here's the good news, though. It is not his throwing arm. The Angels expect him to be out about a month. And the Rangers' Joe Nathan got save number 300 in his career last night, but he did it in very strange fashion. If you've seen the game, then you know Marty Foster, who's the home plate umpire, called out Ben Zobrist on a 3-2 pitch in the 9th inning. The ball was slightly outside and slightly low, and in just a couple minutes, I think we're going to get a chance to see that video, but it was an unbelievable call, but Nathan will take it. Save number 300 for him, guys.
Yeah, his reaction was interesting. I mean, you know, obviously, you can capture a lot now with all the cameras, and he just said, wow, as he was taking the baseball from A.J. Pierzynski.
Yeah, I read Larry, he said he was already thinking about he had to get Longoria out next.
High chopper toward third. Room service hop. Side is retired in order. Here's the video that Murph was talking about last night. Joe Nathan against Ben Zobrist. As they used to say, you make the call. Well, it was a called strike 3. Nathan, watch. Wow, right there. Joe Madden came running out. He couldn't believe it. Again, it was outside. And Marty Foster did say after the ball game, after watching the video, if I could call it over again, I would have called it a ball. We go to the 8th. The Phillies on top 8-3 over the Mets. Great offers on our most innovative lineup ever. Shop at Nissan.com. By Xfinity, the official HD triple play provider of your Phillies. And by Citizens Bank, where good banking is good citizenship. Isn't it time you experience good banking? Colin Cowgill leads it off here in the 8th. Cliff Lee, for the second consecutive start, pitching into the 8th inning. He's retired 7 in a row. He threw only 6 pitches in the 7th.
What he did down in Atlanta the last couple innings, he hardly threw any pitches at all, so he got through 8 innings.
0-1 pitch. 0-2. He fouls it away.
Jerry Hairston now with the Mets this year. The Phillies are happy about that. Scott Hairston, I mean, he killed them. Especially their left-handers. Cole Hamels had trouble with him.
Still surprised that they didn't sign him, but he did want more than a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Want a multi-year deal. Want him going to the Cubs.
He was a good bat in that lineup against left-handed pitching.
1-2 pitch. A little low, and it's 2-2. Out towards center field. Ben Revere ventures back. It carries toward the track. After the post-game show, stick around for the Delaware Valley's leading news. Catch up on all the big stories, all in 30 minutes. All by the region's best news team. Action News at 10 on PHL 17 tonight and every night.
Second baseman Daniel Murphy.
Daniel Murphy is 2 for 3.
Time the Phillies play Murphy's got 2 hits. Good hitter. Hit left-handers, right-handers. Not a lot of power, but he puts the ball in play. Doubles guy. He's just bumping strikes. This guy's amazing. Especially if you can give him a lead.
He's only at 94 pitches, too, with 1 out here in the 8th. And he just picked up another strikeout. Strikeout number 5. Yeah, there are 2 outs. It's 9 in a row retired by Cliff Lee.
Well, look what he did in that at bat. Away, 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 and now we'll get him out in. Little foul tip held on to there by Eric Kratz.
Well, speaking about in a row, every time the Phillies retire the opposing team, 1, 2, 3, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports, giving you all your favorite sports all year long. 3 1-2-3 innings so far. Might be 4. Rollins waits for it. It is 4 1-2-3 innings for Cliff Lee. He's at 96 pitches through 8. Is his night done? I'm not sure. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Early in the game, back in the second, the Mets had a leadoff single, and then the defense, well, took over.
It's a great play by Jimmy Rollins. That ball had a lot of spin, a little humpback liner, turned it into a double play. Cliff Lee just keeps pumping strikes, especially a lot of first pitch strikes tonight.
Brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. Oh, there's Cliff Lee, so that's our answer. He's going to go out and pitch the 9th inning and go for the complete game. You know, with all the issues the starting staff has had, you know, that line and how comfortable he's been, truly comfortable, might do everybody some good to let him go out and try to finish this baby off.
Sure.
Mike Adams is throwing in the bullpen. Adams and Papelbon haven't had a chance to work too much.
It's been a strange season because every time they needed to go to the bullpen, it's been early, and you've used those guys, the middle inning guys, who have struggled a little bit, and the games got out of hand. Now here comes Brandon Lyon, the veteran. He was a closer for a number of teams, Astros, Red Sox. He was here a few years ago on opening day when the Phillies had that big rally in the 9th inning against Houston to win the game.
To the count to Eric Kratz. Kratz reaches out and pulls it towards short. Tejada backed up on it. A quicker runner and there would have been problems, but it's a 6-3 put out. Wheels, this is a special night. It's the first time since 1890 that a Philadelphia team is playing a New York team on three different sports. Not only the Phillies and the Mets, but here goes Voracek with the first goal for the Flyers, the only goal tonight, as they're playing the Islanders. And the Sixers are playing the Brooklyn Nets. There's an alley-oop from Evan Turner. to Thaddeus Young. Brooklyn's winning that one. But since 1890, it's the last time that 3 Philadelphia teams have played 3 New York teams on the same night.
That is amazing.
1-0 the count to Lee. And it's 1-1. I think when a lot of people saw that note for the first time, if they were coming to the Phillies game, they were thinking, okay, let me think. Are 2 of those events going on at the same time? Is there going to be a lot of traffic
That's right.
at the complex? Breaking ball, swung on and missed.
He hasn't seen many fastballs since he got his hit. Big hand for Cliff Lee. He'll get another one if he can get through that 9th inning.
Yeah, the folks over the first base dugout were praising him somewhat as he was going down the stairs. He was stewing about the swing of the miss. He's still shaking his head.
Mick Billmeyer laughing there. Just seeing what a competitor Lee is. Coming in there because he struck out. He's a little ticked off at himself. But it's not like he lets a lot of things bother him. His attention span is just fine. He'll turn into a pitcher again.
Ben Revere takes inside. It's 1-0. Chopper toward third. David Wright to his left and back a step. Phillies are retired in order for the 2nd straight inning. So it's time for the 9th. It's time for Lee to put his glove on, pull his hat down, and head back to the mound and try to pitch a complete game. Cardinals will be celebrating the Fanatic's birthday. It's an 8:05 first pitch. All fans 14 and under will receive the Time Travel and Fanatic DVD. Make your plans now. Go to Phillies.com to purchase your tickets. Cliff Lee going for the complete game here tonight. And he takes inside. It's 1 ball and no strikes. John Buck has homered tonight. It was a 2-run shot. 2nd home run of the series. Fly ball, right field. Mayberry over toward the line, has plenty of room.
I think you almost have to crowd him the way they have the last 2 times because they keep pitching him away and he keeps firing balls into the seats in right field. It looks like It looks like he looks out there. The last 2 times out, Cliff Lee's gotten the ball in on him, and he had a weak fly ball and a pop-up.
Well, there you see Cliff Lee, 26 career complete games. His last one was September of 2011. That was even an oddity from last year. His last one was in 2011. Line drive, base hit for Bird.
He had so many strange games last year. We would be sailing along, and all of a sudden he'd get hit late.
Reminder, after the ball game, it's the post-game show. Mike Missinelli and John Clark will give us the highlights of all of the runs the Phillies have put up here tonight, plus live clubhouse reaction from Marty Bystrom, who's in the house. That's all next on the Phillies post-game show, live from Sugar House Casino. Anthony Recker will be the pinch hitter for the Mets with 1 out and a runner on first. Way upstairs, 1-0. Kratz gives him a look, but it's way back into the seats. 1 ball and 1 strike. Inside and low, 2-1. Recker is 1 for 3 so far in the season, as Lee is at 103 pitches for the night. Pretty comfortable, though.
Yeah, again, Mike Adams is out there throwing just in case this were to get to the point where they think, you know, he's had enough. Lee never looks like he's had enough.
Little low.
Remember last year he got hurt out of the stretch a lot. That was something that he was trying to figure out. A little bit tonight too. But when he's in the windup and just dealing, he's amazing to watch.
And a called strike 3 right on the inside part of the plate. 6 strikeouts for Lee.
He ran a cutter in on him. He's had that thing since the first inning. Great command of his fastball. Man, that looks like a slider, but he calls that a cutter, I think.
Well, now 2 outs. Justin Turner, the batter. Turner's 0 for 3. Grounded into a double play. Flied out twice. Back toward the middle. That'll get into center field, a base hit.
Yeah, they're a little bit itchy down that dugout right now. If you think you're going to win this game, and you know Lee's at a certain point, and they're going to come and get him pretty soon, I think. Well, right now.
Charlie is walking out. It's 106 pitches.
Yeah, he'll get booed.
Mike Adams had been warming up with the bullpen. He's going to take his temperature before he asks for a relief pitcher.
He could, because it's the first trip.
Maybe tell him this is his last batter. Or...
Yeah, it could be. Or he's just going to say that's
it. Yep.
Whatever he said, Lee laughed.
lowered his head. He did have a smile on his face as the fans booed, then started to cheer the effort by Cliff Lee tonight. 2 outs here at the top of the ninth inning. The Phillies up by 5. And we've got an AT&T call to the bullpen. Mike Adams is coming into the game, trying to finish things up for Cliff Lee and the Phillies. The Phillies lead it 8-3. There are 2 runners on base. He was at 106 pitches, and Charlie Manuel went out. He wasn't taking his temperature, he was going out to take him out. And he's bringing in Mike Adams. Now, Adams hasn't worked a whole lot because the Phillies have been struggling somewhat to get to the back of the game with a lead.
Yeah, do 2 things here. The fans aren't happy about it, but they want, I figure that's enough for Lee. He's thrown enough pitches, long season. It's his second start. It's April. And Adams gets a chance. They got him all heated up out there. He gets a chance to come in, get it out, and get into a ball game, get a little bit of work. Tomorrow night, you may need Mike Adams in a bigger spot. And Cliff Lee, what a great job again tonight.
Turner's on first, Bird's on second, and the batter Ruben Tejada. Tejada's 0 for 3. He's flied out twice. He's grounded out to second.
Numbers you were given on him on his 3-2 counts are unbelievable.
Yeah,
it really is.
I mean, to be on base that much in 79 at bats.
That was really an interesting number.
I think the league average is, with a count 3 and 2 to be on base, is around 400. His is like over 600.
Well, he did it last night.
Twice.
That's right, twice.
Singled and walked.
Yeah, he knocked in 2 runs on 1 3-2 count.
0-1 the count to Tejada. Yeah, Gary Cohen gave me that number from the Mets TV play-by-play broadcaster.
That's a heck of a thing too for an 8-hole hitter, because you keep turning the lineup over.
0-1 the count. The runners lead off. Adams ahead 0-1. Here's the pitch. Ground ball foul. It's 0-2.
Tejada has hit higher in their lineup too over the years.
He's hit lead off for them. Well, everybody coming to their feet. Nice crowd tonight. 38,305 on a beautiful night for baseball. The Phils have won 1 of the first 4 games on this homestand, and Cliff Lee is trying to win his 2nd game of the season. He's got his teammate Mike Adams out on the mound. It's no balls and 2 strikes to Tejada, and a called strike 3. And Cliff Lee is 2-0. What a difference a year makes for the Phillies left-hander. He was excellent tonight for 8 2/3 innings, and the Phillies win it 8-3. The offense erupted for 11 hits. They had 3 home runs, the first for Howard, the first for Young, and John Mayberry went yard as well. Well, a good night all the way around for the Phillies. A little extra hitting today. It paid off. And Cliff Lee, he followed up last week's 8-inning performance with 8 1/3 here tonight. Ruben Tejada must have been thinking a different pitch was coming his way, because Mike Adams basically threw one right down the middle of the plate. And Tejada took it for a called strike 3. Here we go.
Adams has so much movement on his pitches. That was a running fastball back. I think he thought it was high, too. But it's over. Cliff Lee pretty happy about it, as everybody around here, as they picked up a much-needed win.
Yeah, the quality starts have been a big issue for the Phillies pitchers. They only had 2. Lee had the first. Ladden had the second. Well, now they have 3, and Cliff Lee has 2 of those 3. Our WBASIN deliveries of the game. We said 3 home runs in a 7-pitch span.
Phillies now have 7 home runs this year by 7 different players, and here are 3 of them hitting their first of the year. Ryan Howard goes out to left center field, and Michael Young steps up right behind him. He's going to go oppo too. He goes to deep right center field. That's his first of the year. And John Mayberry, well, he gets number 1 on that high pitch from Dylan G. Down the line, just keeps it fair off the pole. And what a job tonight by the offense to give him a big lead. Michael Young, he's really starting to swing the bat, Murph, and he's down there with you.
Well, he certainly is, Wills, and yeah, 3 hits, 2 RBI night for you, Mike. And just talk about, first of all, this offense in general. I mean, this was a game that I would imagine this offense felt like they needed, and you got tonight.
Well, I think the biggest thing we focused on before the game was not so much the results, but just starting to play with a little more energy, a little more enthusiasm. Given the talent that we have, if we start doing that, the results are going to come right after. So we're really happy with that.
You know, obviously it's so early in a major league season, but there was some talk about pressing, perhaps, and you know, trying to do too much too early. Is this the kind of thing that can kind of put that aside for a little while?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I think it's never too early to start generating some momentum. You know, like you said, it's very, very early in the season. Nothing's win or loss now, but every win counts. And if we can get some momentum going, that'd be great. But the biggest thing is the way we play. If we play with a lot of energy and, like I said, a lot of enthusiasm, good things are going to happen after that.
For you personally, getting a chance, obviously, to play every day again and then get the at-bats, it looks like the swing is there right where you want it to be at this point. Does it help, obviously, getting these at-bats consistently?
Yeah, you know, I've always gotten, you know, my consistent at-bats, but I mean, this is the first time in the last couple of years where I've had one position consistently, so it helps that I can work as hard as I can in one spot. But at the same time, you always kind of take your cue from your starting pitcher. That sets the tone. Cliff did a great job for us tonight, as he always does.
Michael, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Guys, back upstairs.
Oh, heck of a night for the Phillies offense, and a great night for Cliff Lee. 8 2/3 innings, 3 runs, 2 earned. Phillies win it. We'll be back right after this.